Manners and murder go hand in hand in book 3 of Jacqueline Vick's Harlow Brothers series, Deadly Decorum. Deadly Decorum finds the brothers at the Inglenook Resort again, where they encounter mistaken identities, romantic rivals, and a host of misunderstandings. Jackie's mission is to bring you a good story, make you laugh, and leave you with a warm, fuzzy feeling. Although her focus is mystery novels, she also writes short stories, children's books, nonfiction, and screenplays. Welcome to Blackbird Writer Presents Author Interviews. Thank you for being here, Jackie.
Thank you, Sharon, for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, and that warm, fuzzy feeling, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Get that when you read the books.
Oh, good.
So I love the image of these big hulking football players teaching manners to people. How did you arrive at that combination?
Well, I knew I wanted to do something on manners and etiquette, but I kind of wanted the antithesis of Judith Martin because she seems like she was born with manners. It doesn't seem like she had to work at it at all. And I wanted somebody who was an unlikely candidate who would really have to work at it. And Edward went through stages because first, well, he wanted to be a sports reporter. And then he couldn't find work. And so he went ahead and auditioned to write the Ancivility series. And because of his ability to like memorize stats and quickly memorize small facts, they thought that would be really good. And he looked good in a tux. And so he won the job. And he travels as her official representative and nephew because there is no Ancivility except for the model they hired for the back of the book. So he went through kind of a metamorphosis where he already had the tools to become like the Ancivility because, I mean, he was in sports, you have to have discipline for that. You know, he was a student in college. His mother raised them both to, you know, treat women with respect. And she taught both brothers manners. So he already had the tools. And so when he started out, he would be like, you know, memorizing it all and just kind of stiffly acting it out. And then he kind of grew into it. And then he slipped into the personality to where it kind of doesn't leave. It's there even when he's like losing his manners, if you will. So in this particular book, the mask really slips because one of the problems with being Ancivility's official representative or public face is that everybody tells you how wonderful she is and you can never say thank you because they're not talking to you. And you know, and he's starting to, he's written a book about Rick Monday, the baseball player, and he kind of wants his own life back again. So he's kind of coming around full circle, but he can't, like, the Ancivility personality is so much a part of him that he can't seem to let it go. And then Nicholas, his brother, who is also his secretary, while Edward's the romantic, Nicholas is the pragmatic realist. And Nicholas knows the guy behind all this. And while he likes the nice things that come along with, you know, going to these different events and such, he doesn't lose sight of who they both are. So he's kind of a counterbalance.
Yeah, it works really, really nicely. And
Good.
Just, it makes me giggle every time I picture one of those scenes.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Okay, so the letters that Ancivility gets, that you know, people write into her to ask for advice, these seem to ring really true. And I was wondering if you have source material or if, you know,
life.
Life.
I mean, if you think about it, every one of us has like been in the theater watching a movie and someone's talked through it, or they've been looking at their cell phone and the lights reflected and annoying you, or a neighbor's played really loud music at like midnight. I'm just regular life. All of these things happen. And of course, the person doing them doesn't think there's anything wrong. And they're usually the ones, some people write for advice on how to deal with somebody, and some people write because they don't think they're doing anything wrong and they want validation.
Right. You know, if people thought they were doing something wrong, they wouldn't do it.
Probably. You know? Probably.
Most of the time.
Probably
But
not.
maybe if they're in college.
Exactly.
um, all right. Similarly, are you a stickler for manners? That was one of the things I was thinking is like, do I need to sit up a little straighter when I'm
No. It's I was raised to think of others first. That's the kind of environment that I was raised in. I mean, I don't cut in line, and when you're, have you ever been to like an amusement park and people are filling in? And they're like, "Could you please move to the center so everybody can fill in on the sides?" I move, and I get irritated at those people who don't. And when I moved to Los Angeles, I'm always on time or a little early. It really, nobody owns a watch or something. They're all 15 minutes, half hour late. And it drove me mad because, you start thinking, is this a power play, or are you just like oblivious? But so I do, but I fail miserably a lot of times. But it's just my mom and dad and their whole generation just had manners. Don't chew, don't talk with your mouth full at dinner. I don't know if anybody says that anymore, but they have manners, and manners are all about, and being civil is all about making the other person feel comfortable. Which, and it's more than people think. Oh, I think people have this perception that if you have manners, that you're the weakest person in the room. And it's actually
it's a superpower.
The opposite, because you're the one who's got the self-control not to say what everybody's thinking, and because you don't want to hurt feelings and then that kind of thing. So yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, I fail quite often.
Yeah, my personal kryptonite with that is that if I know how people should be behaving and they aren't, I get really judgy, which is not good manners. Judgy is not good manners.
If you keep it to yourself, though, nobody knows.
Right.
You don't say it.
But I want to.
I know. Like, you can't cut in line.
It's like, pardon me.
I know, it's really hard. It's really hard.
Which is why I like it when you just hear Edward growling at the back of his throat. It's like, oh, I so know that feeling.
Exactly. That's all it takes. But if I was like that big, then people might listen when I growled.
It's like, what's that sound?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So the brothers really feel like siblings. And I know in your bio you wrote a lot about your sister, but did you have brothers, or did you base these brothers off of anybody you know?
Well, I have two younger brothers, but sorry, they're not my inspiration. My inspiration's actually, I love Rex Stout. And anytime you would read about Archie Goodwin and Nero Wolfe, their relationship just feels like family. It feels, if not brothers, father, son, or something, there's just something there that you wouldn't behave that way with, people that you weren't related to. And so I try to bring that relationship a little bit to life with the Harlow brothers. And it's like Edward would be like the Nero Wolfe, because he always gets there before everybody else, because he's really observant and smart. But he's kind of the enigma, and Nicholas is more Archie, because he's the one who wants action, and he goes out there and talks to people, and he goes out there and checks things out and finds the clues most of the time and brings it back to Edward. But the funny thing about their name, I had no idea. After I wrote the book, I got a call from, or an email, or from a distant family member on my mother's side, and they were like, "We're so happy you used the family name." And I was like, I did. But so I guess I've got Harlow's somewhere along the family tree.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. Yeah, I was like, oh, really? Okay, so I sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Totally did that on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
That's awesome. Okay, when you write, where do you start? Do you start with one scene? Do you have an overall story? Do you have a character? Do you have the murder? What's your process?
It depends. When it's the pet psychic mysteries, I always start with the animal, because I need to find, I've done cats and dogs, but you need to find something that is interesting. Like the current book, it's a Fiji crested iguana, which are hard to research because they're endangered, and they were actually discovered during the filming of Blue Lagoon. So, they panned through the background to give atmosphere, and somebody watching who like studied iguanas was like, I've never seen that before. And he like flew there. And so something good came out of that movie. So
So that's good. It needed something.
it did. So with them, I always start with the animal. And like I went through a really interesting rescue of a hummingbird because a neighbor was like, oh, I can't get the hummingbird out of my house. And I went to try and get it in the garage, and it finally landed. And that's not normal for a hummingbird when they're sitting really still. So I managed to get a hold of somebody who rescues them. And I was like, well, I put it outside in the shade, and I was trying to get it to drink sugar water. And she's like, no. And she's like, it's in torpor. Ooh, what's torpor? And she's like, bring it in the house, wrap it in a towel. And I guess like 80% of their diet is bugs. I thought it was like all sugar water and nectar, but she like drove out and like rescued this bird, and it was so impressive. And I was like, okay, I've got to have a hummingbird, but with the Harlow brothers, it's the situation. For the next one is going to be Edward taking that step out and trying to like mingle with the other sports writers, but he can't get loose of Aunt Civility, so he doesn't quite fit in. Poor thing, because you got to torture your characters. So
Definitely.
So it differs with the series.
That's fun. I love the idea of starting with a pet or the animal. That's just,
Well,
there are so many animals out there.
And she's got to feel what they're feeling when she's trying to communicate with them. So it takes a lot of study of how animals react. I wrote a short story for something that I submitted, and thank goodness, right before it had a tiger. And right before I sent it, I looked it up, and tigers don't purr. They don't have the physical structure to purr. And I had it purring, and I was like, oh,
Pull it back.
I know. So it's a lot of research, which it's a good thing I like animals.
Yeah, that's great research. That's very fun.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. In this book, this is the third in the series. There's a nonprofit to help troubled teens. And I was just wondering if you have any experience with nonprofits, because again, the interactions with the nonprofits, the board and the director and it all just rings very true.
It's I'm so happy about that. I've donated to them. Yeah, I grew up volunteering. My dad and mom are big with volunteering. But as for the actual nonprofit, that was a lot of research to figure out, who makes the decisions, and can you have this and what have you. So it was a lot of research, but the idea for Tea for Teens came from reality. I tend to store useless information. And years ago, I read an article, and I couldn't find it again, but there's this group that would go into like inner city schools where they were having troubles with, bullying and violence and fights and stuff like that. And they would teach them how to do an afternoon tea. And then they would have one, and they would, wear the hats and the gloves, and the gentleman would pull out the seats for the ladies. And it really, it taught them about, when you give somebody expectations, they tend to want to rise to them. And it like gave them dignity, and their incidents of like fighting and violence and truancy dropped, because these teens had seen, wow, this is really nice, and I just thought that was so fascinating that exposing people to something like that could actually alter their behavior. So that's where the idea for Tea for Teens came from, is a real organization, but I don't know what it's called because I couldn't find it.
Yeah, well, when I read it, I was like, what a fun idea. I love this. So I'm glad it's real, and I'm glad it works.
Yes, it does.
That's amazing.
It is.
All right. So your bio mentions that you worked in a funeral home. So I just got to ask, did you have any experiences that have wound up in a book?
I do pull from a lot from things that have happened to me or things that have happened to people I know, but you know, especially with them, I'm careful to alter things. I haven't used the funeral home yet. But now you've given me the idea that maybe if Frankie's like client base is dropping, maybe she'll have to like take some temp jobs. But it was horrible. I had to call, they had a call list, which was, I'm sure, older people. And I had to phone them and tell them, you know, if they would schedule an appointment with a salesman, then they could potentially win a free burial plot, which some people could get excited about, but it was kind of creepy I think I was like 18 at the time. But the people I was calling, they were all like, a lot of them were European immigrants, and I terrified them because I would get people going, what? Burial? What are you talking? Death? What? You know, and they wouldn't, and I was like, never mind, bye, click, you know. And then just because I'm a rule follower, I finished out the day, and then I told him, don't even pay me. I'm not coming back. But it was, yeah, I felt so bad because I traumatized quite a few people that day.
Not what you're looking for in one of your first jobs.
No, yeah. You're too young to handle it at 18. You're like, what?
Yeah, I think a job like that's not a good job.
Who knew they had, you know, cold callers for funeral homes or burial plots or who knew? It's so bizarre. But yeah. I guess, you know, they have to sell their services.
I don't know a service anyone wants to think about early.
Do you have a job that compares?
No, I mean, my worst job was an apartment complex manager, which I did for 2 days.
Nice.
Nothing compared to what that was, though.
Have you seen the show Mom? It's now, they just took it off the air. Allison Jenny was playing. That's what she was doing, was kind of apartment manager for a lot of cranky residents. Doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah, well, yeah, I thought it would be nice because it was a nice property, but
yeah,
but everybody hated everybody in the office, you know. It's like the manager was like, we're a team, and then as soon as she walked out, the other two ladies were like, we hate her. It's like, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Oh yeah, that can be. I left an office once because the environment was so stressful. I started having panic attacks driving to work, and I was like, this is just stupid.
Right, yeah.
I'm not gonna do this. I don't have to.
I don't need this.
Exactly. I'll go cold call people on funeral plots.
On funerals instead. Wait, I don't need that either.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you I read that wrong. And finally, what can we expect from you next? So is it going to be a pet psychic or another Harlow Brothers? Where are we?
Well, I'm trying to get one of each out every year. A Scaly Tale of Murder is coming out in December of 2021. And then the next Harlow Brothers, which is as yet unnamed, that should be coming out in the summer. So, awesome. Yeah.
You're busy. That is an intense schedule. So
it's a good thing that I like them.
Yeah.
The characters, the writing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's just like when you're writing somebody and you're having a good time being with them, then it's a lot more fun to do the writing.
It is. You know, it's funny because you see sometimes where people are like, well, we want 3 or 4 books a year, readers. And it's like, whoa. What?
Well, and I'm the same way. I'll finish something that like Reese Bowen. It's like, where's the next one? And it's
right.
Like,
I know.
If you hadn't finished that one in a day and a half, you'd be fine. You know?
I will binge on, if I find an author I like, I will binge on the series. And like Alexia Gordon writes these mysteries with a musician who gets stuck in Ireland, and she rents a house and it's got a ghost. And I just started reading one, and I was like, oh, what's going to happen to the ghost? No, the ghost is free, you know. And
all right, so see, and that just adds another one onto my list.
Oh yeah, she's fun. I mean, they're good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, everybody, for watching Blackbird Authors Presents Author Interviews. And everybody have a great day.
And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.